The Pokemon anime is full of mysteries, like there being more than one of the same legendary, whether it be a full-grown version or a baby, whatever happened to the GS Ball, who is Ash's father, why the one time a Master Ball is used it can't even do its job of catching any Pokemon. Did Ash die? Is that a gun? As I was saying, there are many things in the anime that we either find intriguing or sometimes even fascinating, and today I'm going to talk about arguably the biggest mystery in the Pokemon anime ever. What the f*** is up with Ash's Pikachu? Seriously, this thing is powerful enough to take out multiple Pokemon on its own, stand up to Pokemon with tons more experience, defeat legendary Pokemon, and even faint ground types with electric moves. However, this same Pikachu also loses to Pokemon that have never battled in their entire life. How? Is there any logical explanation for this? We all know the more a Pokemon trains and battles, the stronger they become. At this point, Pikachu is already strong enough to somehow take out multiple legendaries, but then it somehow loses, pretty convincingly, to not only a Pokemon that has never battled before, but what looks like a trainer that's also never battled before, or at least nowhere near as much as a trainer like Ash, who's travelled with Pikachu around multiple different regions. And Trip Snivy isn't the only Pokemon Pikachu has lost to that you'd assume would be ridiculously underleveled in comparison. So, why is Pikachu's power so inconsistent? Well, that's exactly what I'm going to try and figure out, by looking at 5 different theories that might just explain why Pikachu is so strong, yet so weak at the same time. So the first theory we're going to look at that might explain our Pikachu dilemma is that the levels in the anime are either non-existent or work very differently from the games. Maybe levels don't exist in the anime at all, and it's really just all up to the trainer's commands.
Pidgey's attack is Gust at level 5, Sand attack at level 12.
Oh wait, levels do exist in the anime. Well, maybe like I said, levels just work differently. In the Pokemon Origin special, we see that the gym leaders actually choose which Pokemon to battle with depending on the trainer and their Pokemon.
Have you got any badges?
Badges? No, I don't have any.
I see. Well then, I'll battle you with these 2 Pokemon.
The anime, however, doesn't do this, as gym leaders will use the same Pokemon against everyone, which may imply that the stats of Pokemon in the anime do work differently to the games, whereas the Origin special works more similarly to the games. We also know that Pokemon in the anime don't learn every move exactly the same way as they do in the games. Like Ash's Pikachu learning Volt Tackle in the anime, whereas in the games the only way Pikachu can have Volt Tackle is by being bred with a parent holding a light ball. So maybe EVs and IVs are also different in the anime. Or perhaps they don't even exist. And maybe a level 5 Pokemon stats in the anime aren't as one-sided as compared to a level 100 Pokemon stats. However, I still think the difference in level and experience would still be way too big to matter. Pikachu has taken much more powerful hits and was still standing, compared to being knocked out by a Snivy that only hit Pikachu a couple of times. A Snivy that again has never battled before.
And remember, this is Snivy's first battle.
Well then, maybe it isn't just the Pokemon's power. Maybe it's also all down to the trainer. Which brings us to the next theory. It's all down to the experience of the trainer rather than just the experience of the Pokemon. One major difference between Pokemon battles in the anime compared to the games is that trainers are able to direct their Pokemon a lot more. When we battle in the games, all we're able to do is tell our Pokemon what move to use. Trainers in the anime are able to tell their Pokemon to dodge attacks, and even use moves in different ways. For example, during the Sinnoh region, one of Ash's tactics was to use a counter shield technique, which was used to win quite a few matches. He also taught his Weasel to use Aqua Jet against ice attacks, to create even cooler versions of Aqua Jet. Ash also once used Pikachu's Thunder attack to cheat. These are the kind of tactics that you don't see in the games, and are also used by other trainers other than Ash. And because Pikachu seemed to be unable to attack in the battle against Trip Snivy, it was unable to follow Ash's commands, and ultimately ended up being defeated. This I do kind of see being plausible, but there are still holes in this theory. If Ash was a good enough trainer to defeat, for example, all 7 Frontier Brains, with Brandon arguably being the level of an Elite 4 member or even a champion, then Ash should have had no problem with any of his future battles, which he did. Like a loss to the first Sinnoh gym leader Rourke, multiple losses to his rivals like Paul and, as I mentioned, Trip, and...
You can't be serious! I was gonna win every battle with you!
If I may, you didn't by chance bring just Palpito, did you?
Well, I guess if Ash was such a good trainer, he wouldn't be making stupid mistakes like this ever since he started his Unova journey. The next theory explaining Ash's Pikachu is my personal favourite, being that Pikachu's level resets during the beginning of every region. If this theory is true, it would explain a lot, like how Pikachu lost to Trip Snivy, how it fainted to Paul's Elekid, and how it struggled or wasn't able to beat a lot of the earlier region battles it had. The biggest hole in this theory, of course, is how does Pikachu's level reset? This isn't even something you can do in the games. The closest thing you can do in the games is reset your Pokemon's EVs. Well, at the beginning of almost every Pokemon series where Ash starts a brand new region, Pikachu somehow gets electrocuted, which usually results in Pikachu becoming sick.
You gotta see this. We're in the Hoenn region and... Sick? Pikachu, what's wrong? Are you okay? You're burning up. You must have a bad fever. Huh? Something's wrong. I know it. We better find a Pokémon Center, and fast!
It's possible that in the anime, Pikachu being sick at the beginning of the region was Pikachu's levels being reset due to the electricity Pikachu absorbed. However, the problem with this is that Pikachu has taken electric attacks before and wasn't sick afterwards. The sickness could have been caused by Pikachu being shocked straight into its cheeks, which is where Pikachu's electric attacks comes out. So maybe when Pikachu is electrocuted at the beginning of each region, the electricity goes directly into Pikachu's cheeks, into its body, and triggers something that makes Pikachu sick, and in the process resets Pikachu's level. This theory I do find quite plausible. I mean, if Ash is going to remain 10 forever, then I guess it would only be fitting for Pikachu to remain Ash's level 5 starter for each region Ash begins. This next theory is more specific to the Snivy battle, and that Trip Snivy actually wasn't level 5 at all. That Trip Snivy actually was much stronger than a regular starter, being higher level than level 5, and possibly having previous battling experience. It's possible that Trip Snivy, instead of being a brand new starter, was actually found or even donated, and was added to the batch of new starters, and Trip just so happened to pick the Snivy. His Snivy already knew Leaf Tornado, and Snivy can't learn Leaf Tornado until level 16 in both Gen 5 and 6, although again the way Pokemon learn moves in the anime and when they learn them is different to the games. Snivy being high level would explain how it was able to take a hit from Pikachu, and of course how it managed to knock Pikachu out. But I still see this theory being very unlikely. Trip Snivy isn't the only time Pikachu has lost a battle to an opponent we'd assume to be lower level, although Trip Snivy is definitely the most notable. Also, if Trip Snivy was high enough level to take on Pikachu, why is it still a Snivy? Trip Snivy did become a Servine, and eventually a Superior as Trip continued his journey, at about the similar rate of a normal trainer. Surely, if Snivy refused to evolve in the past, it wouldn't have evolved into a Servine, let alone a Superior. Plus, Superior, after being able to take down Pikachu as a Snivy, was one-shot by Pikachu when it was a full-grown Superior, so Superior can't be that powerful. And the last theory I'm going to look over that covers Pikachu's power inconsistencies is... the anime's logic is full of and Pikachu is only as powerful as the writers write it. And honestly, this is probably the most likely theory. If Pikachu's levels work the same in the anime as the games, and Pikachu remained level 100 against all these super weak Pokemon in comparison, Pikachu would basically be the Saitama of the anime and one-shot every opponent he faced. And that wouldn't work for the anime. The writers are always going to have Ash and Pikachu overcome an obstacle and be challenged, or be wiped the floor with. There isn't going to be a time when Pikachu is sweeping through every opponent him and Ash come across. There's always going to be a limit that Ash and Pikachu must overcome. Let's take Dragon Ball Z for example. As the series goes on, Goku comes across stronger and stronger opponents, and in order to beat them, Goku must train, and through training, and about 25 episodes, he manages to overcome the obstacle in front of him. If Goku just one-shot every opponent he came across without breaking a sweat, it wouldn't be as interesting. I mean, could you imagine a show where the main protagonist just one-shots everything without breaking a sweat? That would be so boring. Okay, aside from One Punch Man, because One Punch Man is amazing, and if you haven't seen it, you definitely should. My point is, there isn't going to be a time when Pikachu is sweeping through his opponents like they're nothing. Well, not anytime soon anyway. The battles are one of the main parts of the anime, and the writers aren't going to have them be 2 seconds long. Put it this way, would a Pokemon fan find the Pikachu vs Drake's Dragonite battle as exciting if the battle went like this?
I guess it's up to you and me, Pikachu. Thunder attack!
The challenger wins the match! The challenger wins the match!
He did it!
Yeah, that match sucked! So to answer the question of why Pikachu's power is as inconsistent as it is, there isn't a definitive answer, but it's most likely because that's just how the show is written. I still like to think that Pikachu's level resets during every region, but we'll most likely never know for sure. Anyway, those are finally my thoughts on Ash's Pikachu. Of course, it's totally possible that there might be another theory out there that explains why Pikachu's power is so inconsistent. And if you know of another theory, I'd love to know as well. So if you did enjoy, please leave a like and subscribe if you want to see more Pokemon related videos in the future. And until next time, as always, thank you so much for watching.